Welcome back to Where You At. I'm your host, Taylor Anthony, and I'm back after taking a quick week off, so thank you for giving me the space to reset. But today's conversation makes the break feel worth it. Today I'm catching up with my girl, Leah Kadlecek. She is a first-year litigation assistant with the Legal Aid Society in New York City. Leah shares her path from college to the legal world, the realities of job searching after graduation, and what it's like to navigate the criminal justice system with empathy, but also purpose. And just like so many of us, she is building community in a new city and working to protect her mental health in a very demanding line of work. So whether you're in a law-related field or just figuring out your next career move, Leah shares insight for any young professional. So let's get into it. Hey, Leah.
Hi.
Hey, girl. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice out here. It's still like 80 degrees. So I'm trying to enjoy the summer, the nice weather, because I know it is short-lived.
Yes, you and me both. I'm like trying to be outside as much as I can. As much as I want to lay in bed all weekend, it's like, let me go outside, meet some friends, go to the park, because before we know it, it's going to be, well, more for you because you're in Buffalo. Less for
Yes,
me. You
girl.
guys
Right.
get a
No,
little
it's like
harder.
we're so close, but we're
We're
still so far away
so
from each
far.
other
I
because
know.
you're in New York City, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's still like a 7 hour drive.
Yeah. Same
So
state though,
and
at least.
same state. And then I was like, I know we considered like train rides at one time, and that's like a 9 hour train ride. Yeah, no. I mean, it's an easy flight, so
It is.
it's just timing, and it's funny because it's actually, it's been a whole year. It's been over a year
I
now
know.
since we've seen each other, which is crazy.
It is. But it also just shows like the beauty of FaceTime because it's like
Hmm.
as long as how it's been, we talk so frequently that
Exactly.
I
So
feel
it
like I've
doesn't
seen
feel
you.
like it's been as long as
Yes,
it actually
yes,
has been.
yes.
We're so good. See, all the long distance girls, like that constant, like, checking in with each other, seeing how we're doing. And it doesn't feel like it's been as long as it actually has been. But it still sucks though. Like I do miss you, and I
It
miss
does.
like none of my friends are, I mean, I have friends in Buffalo, but none of none of my like
Yeah.
friends from college, friends from home, I'm not close to any of them. So it is hard. But
Hard.
I do want to hear, how has New York City been treating you? And just, I mean, you've been there a year now as well. So, how's the city been treating you, the Big Apple?
It's good. I love it. I did not know what to expect because I had never been here before I moved. But I really don't think I had many expectations of the city because I just
Hmm.
didn't know what to expect. But I love it. I really do. I think there's just every neighborhood is so different, and I
Hmm.
think that's what the beauty of it is. I feel like New Yorkers have a really bad rep, and I mean, you get that a little bit, but everyone has been always been really nice to me, and
Well, that's good. At least
yeah.
you're having those good, pleasant
Yes.
experiences
Now,
that,
granted, there are some bad ones mixed in between, but the good outweigh the bad. So
yeah. And that's what we got to look at. It's
yeah,
funny because that transition for you, I mean, I guess we can talk about, how we met. We go way back to what
we
was that,
do.
2020 COVID?
That's right. Yep.
So we're both from Ohio. You're technically from Alliance,
Yeah.
right? But you moved to North Canton. Okay. So what was that? 2020 COVID. I was at home from college. Obviously, everything was shut down. But we were at the point in the pandemic that I mean, things were opening back up. And I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
guess, let's go get a job. I'm doing online school, online classes, I think. Or was this the summer? I can't even remember when
Yeah. It was
that
summer. Yeah. Because
summer.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we both, so I started working I got hired at Dick's Sporting Goods because I was running track at the time too. So I was like, oh, I can get a discount on shoes, on clothes,
Yeah.
let's just get a little retail job. I think that was my first like real job too. So I started there summer 2020 when things
Yeah.
slowly kind of started to open back up. We were wearing face masks at work and everything. But then I met you. What was that? Like a month or two late. I wasn't far
I
in when
think
you came.
Yeah, it was like 3 weeks after you started because they had just hired, like, a big group, and you were in that group, and then I
Oh,
was, like, the
yes.
second group. And my very
Oh my
first
gosh.
day, like, "Oh, you can shadow Taylor, she just started." And then
Yeah, she's new. Let's go here. That is
yeah.
so funny. I remember that. I was like, folding a shirt, and I'm like,
Yes.
"Hi, nice to meet you." Like, who would have ever thought a random girl, like we met each other at Dick's Sporting Goods on the summer during the pandemic, and I feel like when I met you, it was like one of the, as we got to know each other, it was like one of those people, like you felt like one of those people that like I'd known forever. Like it didn't feel
Yeah.
like we had just become friends. Like, as we
Yes.
got to know each other and as we kind of started hanging out and, spending time together. And I was like, wow, like Like, I really just met you. Like, I feel like we've been
I
lifelong
know. It felt
friends.
like we
So,
hadn't known each other so long. And the crazy thing
mhm.
too was I was going to Mount and you were going down Carroll, which are
John
like
Carroll, rivals.
rivals. So
Yeah.
it was like, oh, not us going to each other's rival school.
Right,
But
right. But no,
that was
that's really
funny.
special because I feel like that's very rare. And honestly, like, that was probably the last thing I expected to come out of that job besides a
Man,
paycheck.
in the discount.
And the discount,
I
what was that,
love
like that
that discount.
20%? And then when I went back to, I think I finally got to go back on campus, but you were still working for a little bit
Yeah, I
longer. I
worked.
was still coming
Yeah.
to you for that discount.
Yes. That was
Yes,
really a great, and it was a great little job.
it was. It was. It teaches you. I feel like that first, the first job, and especially being a retail job, I feel like it humbles you, but it also teaches,
Yeah.
it teaches you a lot. But honestly, that motivated me to make sure, I stay in school, get that paper, get that
Yes.
degree.
Yeah.
And that is what we both did.
We did because we soon realized we could not work there for the rest of our lives as much as they
Yes.
wanted us to stay
Oh my
because
gosh.
we were.
Retail was not our calling, and that is okay.
No, that is totally, and for those who it is their calling, that's amazing for you. But it taught me a lot. I think everyone should work in like food service or customer service or
Mhm.
retail. Because I think it's character building. You have to deal with
Yeah.
some really unhappy people, and I think it makes you a better shopper and customer to some degree because you know what it's like to be
Mhm.
on the other side.
Okay, so I guess, kind of to start us out, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So going into college, I was pretty sure that I wanted to be an attorney, and I think I started out and my major was like history or philosophy. And then, which I did really enjoy philosophy,
Mhm.
but it was just such a crazy time to be in college, like your first year because of COVID. I wasn't,
Right.
we weren't in
Right. Oh, that's right.
person,
That
we were
was your freshman
online.
year.
Yeah. So it was just kind of hard to figure things out. So I ended up switching to political science and sociology. And then I minored
Mhm.
in pre law. And then then Mount has a program called the Peace Building and Social Justice Program. And I was within that program. So shout out to that if you go to Mount, do the PSJ program.
Mm.
And that was full of just a lot of opportunities.
Mhm.
I was able to go to DC every single spring for the spring lobby
Oh, I remember that.
weekend.
That was a really
That
cool
like
experience.
really just broadened my world in the world of lobbying and advocacy and just what does that look like on your little small college campus.
Mhm.
And then that led me into being able to do advocacy corps for a year where I worked on legislation around community
Mhm.
violence intervention. And I did that. I went to DC every couple months and then I did it on throughout my senior year. And so that all led me to my job now. And just those experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. So you graduated with a degree in poli-sci and sociology?
I ended up just doing poli-sci, but
Just the
I was like
poli-sci
2
you
credits
focused
away
in
from
on.
Soc, so I took a lot of Soc classes,
Yeah.
but I ended up just completing the poli-sci
The
part, yeah.
poli-sci. Okay. Okay. So
But I loved
when you
Soc.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, so much of the work you're doing now, still,
Yeah,
I'm sure you're pulling from so much of that.
yeah,
But I guess after you graduated, so that was 2024. So you're
yeah,
2024. Yep.
yeah.
So how was that transition, that job search, that period of time, and you're like, okay, what's next? I have my degree. Am I going to continue my schooling? Am I looking for full-time jobs? What
Right.
was that period of time kind of like for you?
Well, at first I was, like, set, I'm gonna go to law school right after, I don't wanna take a gap year. I did the LSAT.
That's right. You took the L. I remember
I
you telling me
did.
because you were studying for that as you
Yeah.
were finishing up like your senior year of college, right?
Yeah. The senioritis combined with trying to find the motivation to study for the
Mhm.
LSAT was just bless those who do that. But I think just as I looked for it, I just was like, I really am not an academic weapon at all. And I just need a break from school. I really
Yeah.
did. I just was like, the idea of going straight into that was just
Mhm.
not, it was becoming clear and clear that that was just not what I wanted to do. But I didn't know what that looked like. And so I graduated, I did some traveling. I was able to crash at my sister's in San Diego for like, I think a little over a month, and during that time, I was definitely applying for jobs. I knew I didn't wanna stay in Ohio. I
Mhm.
never want to be someone who stays in Ohio. I think we both kinda share that, like, get out
Yes,
after you
I'm forever
graduate.
thankful for my
Yes,
hometown and, even being in Cleveland. Like if I ever lived in Ohio again, it would be Cleveland. But,
yeah,
I don't know if that's in my future, but like I said, forever thankful for the hometown, but I definitely did want to get out there, see the world and just
yes,
experience living new places. And I think, yeah, we definitely shared that goal.
yes, yes. So I was applying for jobs. out.
Mhm.
Mainly, Chicago's always been my dream. When there one time when I was in high school and I just loved it, so I was
You fell in
mainly
love.
only applying for jobs in Chicago. I think
Mhm.
I did a few in DC because I'd spent a lot of time there the past year, and so I liked DC a lot. And then I ended up getting, and the job search itself was just very, and I think a lot of people can resonate with the fact that you apply, and you just don't ever hear back. It's like you get ghosted.
Mhm.
And it's like you follow up and you hear nothing, like not even an automatic response or
Right.
anything. And so I think
Right.
that was just kind of like humbling in a sense because it's like, okay, here I am, like taking time to fill an application and write a cover letter
Mhm.
and follow up, and you don't get a phone call or anything. And so,
Right. At
I
least
mean,
the
even
yes or no, like either way,
yeah,
like it would
yeah,
just be nice to
exactly.
know so you
Yeah,
can, move. I mean, I know you're applying for tons of positions, but at least you can, okay, check that off on either that one didn't
right,
work or you're moving forward in the process. So,
right. And so that was just kind of an eye opener in that aspect. So I kind of spent the summer just applying for jobs and just kind of relaxing after the crazy 4
yeah.
years, and then in July, I started interviewing for the job I have now, and that took about, like, a month. It was, like, 3 or 4 rounds of interviews, and then
Wow.
I got it in August, and I moved end of August and started, like, September 1st or 2nd, I think.
Yes, no, that's because I remember when I was in the process of moving from Chicago to
Yes,
Buffalo, I remember you telling me about the interviews, the jobs you're applying for, and then you had finally heard from the one in New York City. You were going through the extensive of interviewing process, and then I ended up moving around the same time that you moved to New York
yes.
City.
So it was like we both were starting kind of, and you had just finished school, grad school too,
Right,
so it was like
right.
we both were entering the work world
Exactly.
at the same time. And so I really had no aspirations to move to New York City at all.
Mhm.
I just never thought about it.
So tell us what exactly it is that you're doing now, what your role kind of looks like, and is it what you expected to be doing? Like, is this the type of positions that you were hoping to get out of undergrad?
Yeah, I feel really blessed and just like God really had his hand on all of it.
Mhm.
And I was definitely looking for jobs within the nonprofit world, around
Mhm.
legal services world, because a public defender is like my end goal. So jobs with that. But I also was really open to youth organizations, public health, things
Mhm.
just around nonprofit work and a couple
Right.
policy things. But I kind of not a lot of that. But so my position is a litigation assistant and the criminal defense practice of the Legal Aid Society. In the Legal Aid Society, we
Mhm.
provide public defenders for New York City. So we're all over, and we do civil as well. So immigration, juvenile rights, housing
Mhm.
rights, um, labor, anything that one may need. And then we also do a lot of community work. We're really huge. So I really only know criminal defense practice because that's the unit I'm in,
Mhm.
and I work in our Queens office, so I serve the borough of Queens. And I mainly, specifically, only am assigned serious violent felonies because they happen to have a larger, we call it discovery. That just means all the evidence for the case. And
Mhm.
what I do is I help an attorney request a litigation assistant, or they give you the case, and then my job is to really just, because they have such large caseloads, they just don't
Mhm.
have the ability or literal time
Right.
to
To
really sit
handle all of
and
them.
go through all of it. And I have attorneys who have 100, 120 active open cases right now, so that's just
Oh
not
my gosh. And
sustainable to
that's
sit
you
through.
working as a litigation assistant. So I can
Yeah,
only imagine what these attorneys are,
yeah,
you know what I mean,
yeah,
what they're faced with.
right, right. And so I pretty much just go through, every attorney has different requests, so it's a
Mhm.
really broad job, and my position was actually new, so I was one of the first classes to come in to do it.
Mhm.
So they hired 50 of us and trained all of us for about 6 weeks, and then we were all, put into different offices
Mhm.
around the city. And so it really varies as far as what I do. It could be client relations, but the majority for every case is I do the discovery. So going through the evidence, going through what may not have been turned over, because that
Mhm.
is definitely an issue we have as far as the people are who are what decide is relevant. And so there can be disagreements as far as what's relevant, because we believe, everything should be turned over just for
Mhm.
there to be
A
a
thorough
thorough and,
investigate, yeah.
fair and just trial for everyone. And so that if anything's are edited or redacted, I can help find that and then help the attorney, file what needs to be filed to get that over.
Right.
And then, hearing prep, trial prep, keeping the client or in the family updated of what's
Mhm.
going on, attending, appearances, anything. It really
You have a
varies
wide
by
range of
yes,
like,
yes. Which
but you're directly working under these attorneys and kind of filling in. I mean, they need the extra hands, right? They need the
yeah,
help.
yeah,
So that's kind of where your role is, like
yeah.
picking up like the load that they just may not be able to get to.
Yeah, yeah, and just pointing out, watching all the body cam, how time do that. I'm like, hey, this was said here. Just little things that
Mhm.
you might miss or um something so small. So it's a lot of like
Mhm.
detail oriented work of looking for any little thing
Right.
to help build a case to best represent our clients.
So with this role, is this typically people who are on track to go to law school and this is like an in-between position, or is this not necessarily that, or what does that kind of look like?
I think it really varies. There was a good amount of us who had just graduated, but there were definitely some people who are well into their career
Mhm.
and started this job. So I think it just depends by person. I'd say the majority are people who want to go to law school. A couple of my coworkers have already gone to law school and are doing this job while they're waiting to take the bar. So I think it really varies, but I'd say majority, yes, are on the path to law school.
So it's a good balance, but I know for
Yeah.
you, the goal is law school. I mean, you're getting amazing
Yeah.
experience that, oh my gosh, like people who take maybe some gap years or time off before law school aren't always necessarily even working in a law related field. And I mean, a litigation assistant, you're directly working under attorneys. I mean, you're facing the working in the criminal justice system, you're firsthand experiencing, what it's like for a lot of these people. So what is something, I mean, you're a year in now, so as you kind of look back and reflect on your time here so far, I guess what are some of your biggest takeaways?
I think just that nothing is ever black and white, especially working in criminal defense. I think it can be really easy to dehumanize people and make people defined by a situation or
Mhm.
a choice. And I think there's just so many other factors you have to look at. Which I mean, I kind of knew that going in just from things I'd done and personal experience, but I think just seeing that really in every single case really. Just nothing is ever just as simple as they say. And so I think that is a huge thing. And I think too, just there's a lot of brokenness within our legal system and a lot of failures. So I think just kind of that's you have prepping and creating a defense,
Mhm.
but a lot of it is just like also just making sure that someone really gets the right to
A
a
fair
fair
trial. Right.
trial in process and has their rights are honored and respected. And I think the population I work with are often not necessarily advocated for because people don't necessarily think they should be, because it's kind of that mindset of an eye for an eye.
Mm.
And so I think just wrestling with those things and then just seeing, it's a heavy job. You see a
Yeah.
lot. And I think people are always kind of like, how do you, do that
Yeah,
or
I mean,
work with?
you're going into these prisons, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you're in,
yeah.
like, Rikers,
Riker
the ones we see.
majority, yeah. Rikers is majority of where my clients
Mhm.
are. Um and so I think that for me, I grieve for the victim or the person who was on the end of what happened, but I also
Mhm.
grieve for the perpetrator because I think you have to get to a really dark place and have a lot of really hard experiences that led you maybe to that
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah, and I know criminal justice reform is something that you are very passionate about. I'm guessing, I mean, if that's one of the driving forces of you wanting to be an attorney. So I guess at the end of the day, what kind of reminds you, like, this is why I do what I do. This is why I'm working towards, what it is that I'm working towards.
I think well, that's a really hard question.
No, 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 that's okay. I know it is hard because it's like it really makes you like take a step back and like think about all of the different things that kind of led you to where you are now, right? So
Yeah.
what has, I guess, been the biggest driving factor to push you towards wanting to pursue a career in law?
I think first off, like what I do is an immense privilege and responsibility. You
Mhm.
working with people in the most vulnerable time in their life. And I think as a society, we have this idea that we are like we're owed people who are charged with an offense a right to their story. And I just don't necessarily agree with that. I think they have the right to tell their own stories, and I'm
Hmm.
not saving anyone. I'm not helping anyone. And to some extent, I think there's a lot of people in this situation. If systems work the way they should work, they would never be in this situation. And so I
Yeah.
think that's a huge driving factor that it's not going to fix itself, and but also recognizing that the systems are so flawed and they fail so many people. I have a lot of privilege in this world, and I had a really privileged upbringing and access to education and able to get my college degree
Hmm.
and even expand that. And so I feel, because I was able to be exposed to certain things and have those experiences, just kind of my responsibility to use those to be kind of a driving force in a way that
Hmm.
gives people who do not have a voice or are silenced be able to.
No, I hear you because I think the fact that you're able to recognize and acknowledge privilege, I mean, that's something that a lot of people, you have to be able to do. You have to take a step back sometimes and realize that just, I feel like, goes to the conversation of like equity. It's like
Totally.
not everyone has the same stepping stones to get to that point. And when you have a lack of resources or barriers that cause you to be held back or prevent you from being, reaching that ceiling, that you have to take all of those factors into consideration.
Yeah. And
So I feel like recognizing that privilege and in this space that you're working in is so huge. You're working, like you said, with the most vulnerable, a very vulnerable population.
I think too, just within the privileges I have, realizing that like using them in a way that's appropriate
Hmm.
and fight systems in a way that does not take up space from people who should be in that space.
Hmm.
Because I think sometimes that can be done wrong. And so I think just really being aware and constantly educating myself and learning and listening of how I can best do that when there are just so many systems that have been in place for years and policies that have
Hmm.
just kept people down. And even current day, what especially when it comes to the legal system, there are just so many things, barriers that make it really hard.
Hmm. I think the work you're doing, it's so important, but it's also it's very heavy, and that can definitely take a toll on your mental health, your physical health, I feel like it can be draining a lot of times. I mean, that's what you're doing day in and day out. So how do you kind of keep yourself grounded in your day to day?
I think I first have to recognize that I it is not happening as much as I am watching and working alongside and
Hmm.
looking at documents. It did not happen to me, and I'm not the one in the situation. And so there's immense privilege in that aspect, that I am going home to my bed and my apartment, and I'm not going home
Hmm.
to other situations. And so I think recognizing that, and then on top of that, I think just being really intentional with what you use in your free time, what I'm consuming, what I make sure I do not consume, as far as what I watch, what I read, and then who's in your circle.
Yeah.
Feel really blessed to have people in my circle who are also really fierce advocates and
Hmm.
passionate about this work. And so we're able to talk about it, and in a way that is, I can express the frustration
You have that outlet
and
to be
anger.
able to
Yes.
share that. And I think kind of
Um,
off that you're not on social media really. I mean, I know you have a few of the
no, I
platforms,
love
but I
my
feel
Facebook.
you're a Facebook and LinkedIn warrior, girl. I tell
I
you.
am.
But I feel like kind of removing yourself from,
Mhm.
I mean, from all of it
Yeah.
has to be a good escape for you as well.
Yeah. And I think that I've, in a way, kind of created, I don't want to say a bubble, but
Hmm.
you are the five people you're around and the people you speak to all the time. And so I think I feel really blessed I have people like you and other people in my life who can kind of pour into me too. And then
Hmm.
obviously my relationship with God, and has really kept me grounded, and my church community, and just stepping into what he's called me to be. And I really do believe that he kind of keeps me going and to do this type of work, because it is, I think I don't want to become jaded or to a
Mhm.
point where I'm just kind of like, oh, it's whatever. Because I see that, I see that in some people who've been in this field for a long time, and they'll kind of like, oh, you're so young, you have so much empathy that'll die off,
Mhm.
kind of when you get worn down. And I don't think it comes from an ill place, but I think it's just kind of, I don't want that to go away. I want to
Mhm.
stay always empathetic and understanding and always trying to see how to best support and do my job best, especially as that may turn into me being an attorney one day. So,
It will. It will turn into you being an
right.
attorney one day, and I think, yeah, so much of that can be your strong suit. I mean, that can be your
Hmm.
strength, taking that empathy and that passion with you and drive you, and I know they said, "Oh, once your year's in," but just because that happened to them doesn't mean that's gonna be the
Right.
type of attorney you are, and I think that's what's gonna kinda set you apart.
Yeah. And I think it's easier, right? It's easier for people to kind of look at things really black and white. And it's easier
Mhm.
for people to dehumanize people so we don't have to question the systems that are in place, right? And question why we're doing the things we do and go home, ignore them because they don't think it directly affects them when, we're all indirectly affected
Mhm.
by different things. And so I think that's a very convenient way in a way to kind of shove it down instead of having to really grapple with the things that we know go on and happen and push for reform and change.
Mhm. I think the fact that I mean, you're a year into this now, so you've gotten great insights on what this looks like. You're not just like you're completely immersed in the field, right?
Mhm.
So the only thing preventing you from actually practicing and being the person, in the courtroom that's, doing the defense is your degree, right?
Yeah.
So what does the kind of timeline look for you? I know you've considered going back to school for your master's, but obviously I know law school is, eventually the goal as well.
Yeah.
Where's your head kind of at in terms of a timeline?
Yeah, I think I feel I really like this season of life I'm in. I really like my job. I think New York City is a really fun place to be when you're
Mhm.
young and in your 20s. And so I don't and obviously, law school is a huge commitment and it
Right.
consumes your life and it's really hard. And so I just don't think that I'm in a place that I really want to jump into that. And law
Yeah,
school
it
will
will
always be
always be
there.
there.
It will
Yeah,
always be there. And
exactly. It
so
will
I
always
think
be there.
I also feel really grateful that I'm surrounded by a lot of people at work who are in their late 20s or early 30s and
Mhm.
they're in law school right now and I have coworkers who, they took a gap year and they're going to law school now or they're applying
Mhm.
for next year. And I think it's just whatever works for your own journey, but it's just nothing
Yeah.
I think when I'm ready to go, I'll really feel like, okay, I think now's the time to
This is the
go.
time, yeah.
And um I think there's just other things. I don't know. I think I could see myself maybe in a few years going,
Mhm.
and I would probably go part-time and then and stay working.
So you'd
So at
still
least
work
about
full-time,
yeah,
you think?
yeah,
And then part-time school?
yeah.
Oh, wow, that would be a lot. That would be a
It
lot, but
would
I
be a
think
lot. But I think, I mean, who knows, we always
yeah, I know
expecting
anything
different
can
things to
happen.
play out. I will be getting my master's through Hunter in urban policy and leadership. Because I think it's like I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, I kind of have my routine. I have my little
Mhm.
community here. I think I'm kind of a place where like I wouldn't say I'm bored, but like I could take something else on,
Mhm.
and that I I've always end goal would like love to work in policy after I kind of have years under my belt of working and understanding what policies could really be beneficial.
Mhm.
And also just I would love to eventually work in that world and work in making legislation a lot more understandable because
Mhm.
I think it's very much
Yeah,
written in a
breaking it
way so
down and making
people
it more digestible for the average
yes,
person.
because exactly. Yes, because even I like it's so hard for me to understand sometimes, let alone, get people politically engaged by policies that directly affect them, but it's so hard to
Mhm.
understand
Right.
and
Right.
so that's something down the line. So this masteries would just kind of, help me get my foot in that door,
Mhm.
and put that on my, while I'm waiting to maybe go to law school and keep me just in that like, a year out of school. And so I'd
Mhm.
be starting to be a year and a half out of school, just homework
Yeah,
and writing, keep
always
those
learning, keep you
skills up.
sharp and
Yes, exactly. And so that's kind of my next step. And then I also recently got into the next cohort of the parole preparation project. So I'll start that next weekend. And so I'll be trained, and then it's kind of more of like a part-time commitment,
Okay.
maybe a few hours during the week.
Yeah, what does
They
that
are
role look like?
they're a nonprofit, and they provide multiple services, but mine will specifically be working with people who are facing life sentences and their parole hearing is coming up. So be trained and then along with a couple other people, spend the next year because it's about an 8 to 12 month commitment preparing for that. And anyway, I'm not super sure all that it will entail just because, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's such a mixed feelings of like, that's a huge
Absolutely. Yeah.
responsibility. And then also the part of me is like, it's frustrating that that even has to exist. That, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? That those aren't offered and we don't have those within facilities to prepare people that all of they need people to do this in their own free time,
Outside
so
of
it's like the
exactly,
two,
exactly.
it's a huge responsibility and privilege that I do not take lightly at all.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that I think that, and then my master's, I'm kind of like, okay, that's what I'm kind of expecting the next
Mhm.
year and a half ish to look like, and then see where I'm at after that and see if I want to go straight into law school or take another year
Right.
off and go.
Just take it step by step, one thing
Yeah,
at a time.
and I think that there's just no, there's so many, go straight out or don't go. I think it's just really up to
Mhm.
how you're feeling and what that looks like for your life and how it fits in, and then for me, just praying on it and what that
Yeah.
clarity feels like, and so everyone's journey is so different, and so
It
yeah,
is. It is, and you just kinda have to trust the process and know that, you're doing things in your own time, on your own timeline, and, this will lead you to where you need to go, where you're supposed to be. So, like you said, you're gonna enroll in the master's program. How long is that program?
the shortest I could complete it in, and I'd go part-time, so, like,
Okay,
I would still
right.
work and then just go in the evening. It's
Mhm,
only offered in the evening, so that works
mhm.
out. I believe the shortest I could complete it would be about 18 months, and then
Okay. So, like,
at
a year and a
max 2
half-ish.
years. Yeah, so not terrible for a part-time
Yeah.
evening program at all, I don't think.
Yeah, no, especially like you said, you'll be working full time, but
Yeah,
you get through that, and then take it one thing at a time. You get through that, and then
yeah,
you see what's next. If you're at a place in your life where like, okay, now it's time to go to law school, but if not, like you said, it's always going to be there. And for when you're ready, when you're at that place, that season of your life, that you're like, okay, that's my next step. That's my
totally, yeah, and I say all that very easily, but there's definitely times where, you get on LinkedIn and it's like, data everyone's getting their PhD or, have their
yeah,
5th
yeah.
master's or just travel the world, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so behind,"
Hmm.
and I think just always remembering that, like, comparison is really just a thief of joy, and just being really
Hmm.
present where you're at, and just grateful for the fact that I have a job in this job market, because I have so many friends who, it's been so hard for them to get a job because not for
Hmm.
lack of experiences or amazing resumes or
Right,
talent
like
or
it's like they're
effort. It's
qualified.
just,
It's
yes,
just the
so
job market.
qualified. Yes.
Yeah, no, I
So
completely get that.
I think, just always putting things in perspective and always just being grateful for where you're at. But it can be it's so easy to get caught up into like, everyone's doing
Yeah.
this and this, and
No,
I'm
I
not
know,
doing
especially like you
that.
said, when you go on LinkedIn and you're comparing their
And
professional accolades to your professional accolades and they're graduating from here and doing this and you're like, okay, well, I'm still doing this, maybe considering
yeah,
this. Yeah, no, I completely get that. But like you said, comparison is the thief of joy. And if you constantly spend your time looking and seeing what other people are doing instead of focusing on where you're at and what you're doing and what you need to do to get to where you want to be, then that's not going to make you happy.
uh exactly.
Yeah.
And eventually that will, yeah, it won't be satisfying or fulfilling because you'll be motivated
Hmm.
by just trying to. There will always be someone doing something,
Hmm.
I don't know, better, more.
Yeah,
So,
doing something else, but that's not
no,
necessarily in alignment with what you need to be doing, and that's
exactly.
okay. That's okay. Oh, well, I love that. I'm so proud of you because I know you've been working so hard, and I know, what you're doing day in and day out is no easy feat. So, oh my gosh, I just give you the utmost respect for that because
Okay.
being able to be on the front hands of, everything that you're doing, not the average person would be able to do that. And it's a crucial role, and I know you said it does come with a big responsibility, but I think, you're handling it very well considered. And I know this is work that you are passionate about. And I know, like I said, criminal justice reform and actually seeing changes within the system that does unfortunately fail so many people, is something that you are working towards. And I just love all that about you. And I can see your passion. And I've seen it in you from the day we've met. And as we've, continued to get to know each other through the years and grow our
Yeah.
friendship and just, yeah, I mean, you're like a sister to me. So
Like,
I see. I see all of this, but kinda like, shifting gears, we did get, really into a lot of, what it is you're doing on the day to day and what your job, excuse me, what your work looks like and, what you're kind of considering. But, I'd love to just kind of hear how the city has been treating you, how you decompress in such a busy, hustle and bustle of New York City. Like we're from Ohio. Like
Yeah.
there's not much, there's a very
Slow
big
paced life
transition.
over there. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. I really do. I really love it. I live in an area that's pretty calm, which I
Mhm.
think helps a lot. I am not like in the city, so I'm not surrounded by that. I don't think I could survive in that every single day because it would
Yeah, I
be
don't blame
way
you.
too overstimulating for me. But I think too, just recognizing I moved into a community that's been here for a really long time and,
Mhm.
where I being really intentional, where I shop and where I buy. And then also just exploring. I love to go find a coffee shop.
Yes, girl, there's coffee shop. I know you're just in Brooklyn, you're finding all the
Yes.
places
All the
there.
places, and especially like, this was my first summer in the city
Mhm.
and it was as magical as everyone puts it out to be. Just so many fun. I love a free event or a market. I love,
Mhm.
dinner with the girls. And so
Exactly. It's like the
just
roof to little find a cute little rooftop bar, girls'
yes,
night.
yes,
Yeah, no, I get it. I
exactly.
get it.
And so I think, I like to work out, it's a huge way I
Mhm.
try to decompress. It's just taking care of yourself, whether it's a
Yeah, that's
walk
important.
or that and just doing things that bring you joy. So for me it's
Yeah.
just a nice iced vanilla latte. Um
The iced vanilla latte can
an
do it
iced
for you.
vanilla latte, yes.
No, I love that. You've been there a year now, which is crazy. I love that you've been finding so many things to do. You're really making the most of you're a real city girl now. So
Yeah, yeah. But it's always so I went home in July and it's
Mhm.
just such a different I mean, you were in Chicago for
Different
a year,
pace.
it's
Yeah.
just a
No, I get it.
completely different pace. Here it's
Yeah.
just rush, 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 rush. And it can be easy to get caught up in that. And so I think just kind of taking moments to breathe the pace that I walk, you know what I mean? If I
Mhm.
don't need to be walking, rushing,
Right, you can slow it down
you can slow it
sometimes.
down, as long as
Yeah.
I'm not in someone's way, because
Yeah, it's such a
get yelled at.
fast-paced
But
hustle and bustle
you know what I mean?
city.
Just things
Yeah.
like that, and just taking moments to just breathe and be present, and
Mhm.
sit. And I know it sounds all like boring things, but I think in this
No, you gotta take
environment, yeah, and I
Mhm.
think too, it's a really individualistic environment to some degree. A lot of people are moving here. They're here for their career. They're
Mhm.
here for school, whatever that may be. They're here to move up. And so I think just being really intentional with community and it's also like the little Midwest in me, I feel like,
In the
Midwest
Midwest, yeah.
hospitality. And so I think just be really intentional of, let's go get coffee, let's go do
Mhm.
this. Because I didn't know anyone at all when I moved here. And I'm a big, I love my people.
Right.
I love, always doing things with people, especially so going from that environment in college, you're with people all the time, always
Mhm.
having sleepovers to then being like, I don't know anyone.
Right,
And
you had
I've
to be
been,
very intentional putting
yeah,
yourself out there, being
right.
open to just saying yes, trying new
Yeah.
things, going to do yeah, no, I get it. It's easier said
Yeah.
than done sometimes, but
Yeah,
I get
totally.
that.
And so I think just things like that and just putting that effort in. And I
Mhm.
think overall you just learn so I feel like that chapter after you graduate, you just learn so much about yourself.
Mhm.
And I feel like you and I have talked about that a lot, and just different goals we have. And it's just really the only time in your life you'll have this type of season. And so I
Yeah.
think just really savoring that and taking advantage of that in every way because it's,
Yeah, and
all I
growing
have to
as
worry
much
about
as
is
you
me.
can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, and it's like, it's not gonna be like that forever, so it's like
Exactly. Yeah.
making the most of this time right now and taking, take learning and just soaking it all in, absorbing it, and preparing yourself for that next chapter of your life
Yeah. Yeah.
because it will come quick.
It'll
So
go fast. Yes.
yeah. So I want to ask you, as we kind of close things out, what advice do you have for anyone who, maybe navigating a similar space as you, early entry into their career, maybe moving to a big city or working, in a mentally and physically draining position at times, and anything you'd like to touch on, what advice do you have for someone?
I think first off, like I never made Dean's List. High school was hard for me. Shout out to Miss Formica. She was one of my tutors in the IP room and she helped me every single day. And so
Hmm.
I think I never thought of myself as super smart. So even the idea of like being a lawyer was like, oh, that's not really for me,
It felt
right?
out of reach for you?
That's not, and I just kind of would, if that's you or something, you don't need to be this. I mean, it's great to have good grades, I definitely could have applied myself a little more in college, but I think sometimes the law world can get
Mhm,
really, the mindset is like, oh, you need to be top 10, right? You got to get a top 10 school. You need to get a 170 on the LSAT.
mhm,
When really it's like an average score is fine. And at the end of the day, you're all taking the bar. You're all getting the same certificate.
mhm.
And that's granted, that's just my perspective. But I think that I was really overwhelmed by an environment and people I knew that was like really consumed in that. But thankfully, I had mentors or different people who were just like, you know, you're doing a thousand other things
Yeah,
too. And
that
that's,
were pushing you.
grounding you in a lot of other ways. And so
Yeah, you
I,
had to see your value and your worth and what you could bring to the
yeah,
table because
yeah.
just because, oh, you weren't an academic weapon, so to say, you still brought so much to the table.
Yeah. And so I think just doing different experiences, putting yourself in situations where or spaces that may be uncomfortable for you, and just listening and reading. And I think too, volunteering is huge.
Mhm,
I think and whatever that looks like, there's so many organizations everywhere that always need
right,
volunteers. And I think that's a perfect way to kind of expose yourself to different things or give back to programs you've benefited from,
mhm.
or things you were a part of. And so I would say that, and then just give yourself grace, and also give
That's a
other
big
people
one.
grace because
Mhm,
everyone's figuring it out. And everyone comes from so many different experiences and backgrounds that you may not
exactly.
know about.
It can
I
be
mean,
easy to jump to conclusions. It can be
totally,
easy
it
to
can be
jump to
so easy.
conclusions, assumptions, and sometimes
Yes,
you do. You just have to take a step back
yes.
and
And I think just be confident in who you are and what you know, and never stop learning. I think
Mhm,
that's something for me the past year, just because I've, a whole new world for me in certain aspects. And so just reading a lot. And I think always make sure you have someone older than you, or a mentor. That's really
mhm.
important for me, who's lived longer and maybe is in the career you want to be in, who can kind of pour into you or help you or give you
Yeah,
resources.
that's a
I
big
think
one.
that's huge because at the end of the day, we're like babies. We're so young and there's so much to
We are.
learn.
We're
And
just
these
getting
people who have
started.
gone before you, yeah,
Mhm.
who kind of know some of those things. So
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
definitely
I
good to
think the
have.
main thing is just take it a day at a time and have fun and be in the present. And it's a really, I mean, I'm a no social media advocate. I would say delete your social media and just try it. And I used to be on all of them, all the apps.
Mhm.
And I think it really does make a huge impact on your mental health for sure.
Yeah.
It
Even
really
just if it's a
does.
temporary little break, right?
Yes,
If even it's
totally.
just
Just do it for a period to just kind of, have those distractions gone and not be refreshing to like see whatever is
Mhm.
posting or whatever.
Okay. So, Leah, when you think about, everything that you've accomplished to this point and everything and everywhere you're kind of navigating right now, where are you at?
Oof. I think I see myself staying in the city. So
Mhm.
if anyone needs any connections or has connections,
Mhm.
I don't know, message me on LinkedIn. And I think I'm just in a place where I am just open to growing and learning and taking
Mhm.
every opportunity there is that I'm able to do to the best of my ability. Um, yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's really all you can do,
Yeah.
continue to grow and continue to learn and just have that lead you into whatever is next for you. Well, thank you, Leah. I appreciate you coming on and talking because I feel like a lot of people can relate with where you're at. It's not every day that you're picking up and moving across, not across the country, but far away from home into a
Yeah.
place like New York City. So anyone who may be early into their career, just finishing up college and maybe kind of navigating a similar space like that, I think they could definitely, find everything that you had to say to be very, very valuable. So thank you for sharing your insight, your perspective, and just kind of giving us a little look into what it is that you're doing now and how you're continuing to try making a difference in the space that you're in.
Well, thank you. And it was a huge honor. And it's been so cool to see this podcast come to life, especially since we've talked about it and
Yes.
just passion, just seeing everything you accomplished in college and your drive. and
thank you,
discipline
girl.
always inspired me, always made me want to go get in the book, study a little longer. But anyways, it's super cool and it's really motivating. I think it's just also it's inspiring as we're both young and in our careers to just do it. And I think that's what you've done with this podcast. It was a dream. You put ton of work
Yes,
and
girl.
research into it, and then to do it, do
Yeah,
the
no,
damn
I
thing.
remember I was
So,
bouncing a ton of ideas off of you too
yeah.
when this was first starting. And you were like, just go for it, girl. I love it. And I was like, having that positive feedback and reinforcement from the people closest to me definitely
Mhm.
gave me the confidence and the reassurance I needed to like you said, to just do it. So I'm happy that I had your support every step of the way. But oh my gosh, I know it's been like we said in the beginning, it's been over a year. I know we will see each other soon. We're gonna make it
Yes.
happen before this year is over. But thank you so much, Leah, again. I'm so proud of you, and we will be talking soon.
Cute. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Where You At. My conversation with Leah was so honest, her opening up about everything from her career transitions to mental health. So if her story resonated with you, share this episode with a friend who's navigating their own next steps. And if you're enjoying Where You At, rating and reviewing on your favorite podcast app really helps more people find these conversations. So until next time, keep showing up where you're at.